So everything was fine. It was fine. It went well. The meeting seemed to go well.
Probably one of the greatest comebacks in the history of politics, maybe even greater than mine.
President Donald Trump congratulating the Canadian Prime Minister on his recent election win. The whole conversation just filled to the brim with warmth and cordiality.
I think I was probably the greatest thing that happened to him, but I can't take full credit.
But then, things got serious. Less than 10 minutes into the meeting, the first real test.
You had said that Canada should become the 51st state.
Yeah. No. Well, I still believe that, but you know, takes two to tango, right?
Yes, this was the question posing the greatest risk, the annexation of Canada, making it the 51st state. From the point of view of a U.S. president who unceasingly threatens to take what he believes America needs.
You know, I'm a real estate developer at heart.
Facing a prime minister who has steadfastly at every turn said no. And that was only the first test. Let me take you through it. So I'll get back to this 51st state stuff in just a moment. The first thing that's helpful to understand about this whole meeting is that the build-up to it was really an exercise in aiming low.
Prime Minister Carney really downplaying expectations.
The lowest possible bar. Make nice, don't mess it up, and that would be a success.
Yes, the overarching message from Carney himself was, everybody just chill.
Do not expect white smoke out of that meeting.
And I heard one expert put it perfectly. The goal for today is to get through today. So with that in mind, at 11:55 a.m., the beginning of the beginning. Donald Trump, no hint of a smile on his face, but Carney beaming. A quick turn to an army of reporters looking for a sign of something, anything, a familiar Trumpian fist pump to the crowd, and then Carney somewhat sheepishly mirrors the gesture. Like, when in Rome, right? I guess this is what we're doing now. But then, on to business.
Thank you very much, everybody. It's a great honor to have Prime Minister Mark Carney.
So the actual first real test for Mark Carney wasn't even necessarily one presented by Trump. Carney's challenge was always going to be how he juggled two very different audiences, one American and one Canadian.
Thank you for your hospitality and above all for your leadership. You're a transformational president, focus on the economy with a relentless focus on the American worker, securing your borders, ending the scourge of fentanyl and other opioids, and securing the world.
You notice how Carney is doing two things here. He's apparently complimenting the president, but for Canadians deeply wary of anyone who would bend a knee to Trump, he's not fawning, and he's not really complimenting him at all. Listen again. There's no real value judgment here, good or bad, just a series of facts.
You're a transformational president, focus on the economy, securing your borders, ending the scourge of fentanyl, and securing the world.
A transformational leader. Not a good one necessarily, just one who's done a lot of stuff, focused on many things. I point this out to show you how careful a line Carney is about to spend the next 30 minutes walking.
I think from Carney's perspective, you know, it's a smart move to try to keep things friendly, try to keep things cordial, but also to remind Trump that Canada has agency of its own. Canada is not interested in a lot of things that Trump wants for it. And so, you know, I think it was, you know, smile, but also maintain the strength of your positions on those issues facing the two countries.
And this balance would be tested again when Trump reminded Carney why Canada as a country just simply shouldn't exist.
Somebody drew that line many years ago with like a ruler, just a straight line right across the top of the country. When you look at that beautiful formation when it's together, I'm a very artistic person, but when I looked at that beauty, I said, that's the way it was meant to be.
You know, the friendly tone of the president, even if what he said, the way he said it was friendly, what he said, though, was, as I said, kind of menacing and alarming.
It is a daunting moment, and it is tricky, it is difficult, it's challenging from a political communications perspective, and it's also challenging from a very personal perspective.
Mark Carney's answer here would need to do two things. It would need to state clearly, Canada is never becoming the 51st state. But he would need to do it in a way that doesn't insult Trump for wanting it to be so, and in a way he could relate to. Here was his answer.
Well, if I may, as you know from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale.
That's true.
We're sitting in one right now, Buckingham Palace that you visited as well.
That's true.
And having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign last several months, it's not for sale, won't be for sale ever. But the opportunity is in the partnership.
Politicians often talk about that perfect 10-word answer. What do you say that can blunt the attack, refocus back to your thing, and move things forward? And in the end, they landed on this notion of a real estate analogy that you could sort of see Trump nodding along to and saying, oh yeah, no, I get exactly what you mean.
And so this was how the question of Canada becoming the 51st state lived and died in this meeting.
But never say never. Never say never.
It was really that simple. Trump maintained his position that this would be good for Canada. Carney politely declined the offer while reminding Trump there is still opportunity for partnership, and still allowing Trump to indulge in a vision of, well, let's see how it all plays out.
When you consider what Mr. Carney just said, that Canada is not for sale, does this make the discussion a little more difficult to start on?
No, not at all. No, not at all. No, time will tell. It's only time. But I say never say never.
From there, Carney likely knew he had overcome the single biggest threat to a graceful start to the relationship. We would also very soon see another tactic of Carney's played out across two key moments. Here's the first.
I won't say this about Mark, but I didn't like his predecessor. I didn't like a person that worked for. She was terrible, actually. She was a terrible person. And she really hurt that deal very badly because she tried to take advantage of the deal and she didn't get away with it. You know what I'm talking about.
So the critical context here isn't that Trump is bashing Carney's predecessor in Justin Trudeau. It's that he's bashing one of Carney's cabinet ministers and friend in Chrystia Freeland. That whole, you know who I'm talking about, right, is her. And in case you didn't know, Freeland is dear enough to Carney that he is the godfather of her son. So this is one moment where Carney decides simply to stomach an insult against his friend.
You know what I'm talking about. But so, you know, we had a bad relationship having to do with the fact that we disagreed with the way they viewed the deal.
I was watching your face through the meeting in the Oval Office, and I wondered what was going through your mind when the president talked about erasing the artificial border and how he criticized your predecessor and Madam Freeland.
Thank you for your question. I'm glad that you couldn't tell what was going through my mind.
And then something similar happened when Trump started denigrating the Democratic governor of California, Gavin Newsom, by calling him a name and then trying to get Carney in on the joke.
Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. Did you ever hear of Gavin Newsom?
But again, Carney's play here is to engage as little as possible, as unnoticeably as possible.
Carney stayed mostly silent throughout this bilateral meeting, letting the president take center stage, so to speak.
Trump likes to talk. Trump likes to give these sort of rambling monologues. We've seen this at his rallies. We saw it at his State of the Union address earlier this year. I think a good strategy in a one-on-one meeting is probably to just let him get it out of his system, let him talk, and then make your case when you have the opportunity. And I think that's what we saw in that meeting.
Which brings us to Carney's parting words to journalists and to Trump himself.
Respectfully, Canadians' view on this is not going to change on the 51st state. Secondly, we are the largest client of the United States in the totality of all the goods. So we are the largest client of the United States. We have a tremendous auto sector between the two of us, and the changes that made have been helpful. 50% of a car that comes from Canada is American. That's not like anywhere else in the world. This is a bigger discussion. There are much bigger forces involved, and this will take some time and some discussions, and that's why we're here.
This is very friendly. We're not. This is not going to be like we had another little blow up with somebody else. That was a much different. This is a very friendly conversation.
And with that, you've really heard almost all of what Mark Carney had to say in that half-hour meeting, which was ultimately a demonstration of restraint and picking one's spots.
The discipline of the Canadian delegation and the measured, interjections by the Prime Minister, I think the public portion of that went pretty well for Canada.
But what does all this mean? Well, a couple of things. One, any world leader looking to this meeting for guidance on how to get into Trump's good graces may very well see that keeping your mouth shut can go a long way. But two, there is a question to be asked about what Canada really gains out of this. For Donald Trump, politics is personal. And by that measure, this meeting does seem to have gone well.
We had a great meeting today. Really good. I think the relationship's going to be very strong.
But the real substance happens behind closed doors.
Look, we have, JP, we have a lot more work to do. I'm not trying to suggest at any respect that we can have one meeting and everything's changed, but now we are engaged and very fully engaged.
Above all else, Canada is looking for clarity, something that would explain the roller coaster of the last 100 days and the solution, really, to a puzzle no one has cracked. What do you even want from us?